And he writes, when I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia. He was feeling it, okay? He's invoking.
Do you love that, Piers? We're talking about Zeus, bro. Jesus is not your dude. Not in this one. Zeus is the god. Neil deGrasse Tyson schools Bible thumper Piers Morgan in heated interview. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a scientist. Let's see what he has to say.
You're an atheist, right? Is that right?
I don't use the title because if I said it, people then assume things about me to be true that are not.
Okay.
And so I realize I have to put some distance between me. But I find myself unconvinced by any God that has been described to me as being in charge of anything.
So how do you think we all got here? How did it all start?
Well, I follow the lines of scientific evidence, and we know about evolution. We know about genetic commonality among all life forms on Earth, plant and animal, and fungal. And so this comes to us from very hard work invested in the biological sciences. You add some of that to the geology and astrophysics of the early solar system, and we go from raw ingredients drawn from the periodic table of elements, forged in the hearts of stars that are everywhere in the universe, by the way, the ingredients of life, hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, that they're the most common ingredients in the universe. And for life to be based on them, it tells you that life is highly opportunistic. And in the early Earth, we went from organic molecules to self-replicating life. We still don't know how that happened. That's a biological frontier.
I can see Piers going, yeah, that's right. We don't. We need God to do it. Ha!
Top people.
So what was this? Here's my question.
Things we don't know what was around.
Here's my question for you. If I was Merlin, this is what I'd be asking, right? Let's assume you're Merlin for a moment. Merlin, what was there before nothing?
We don't know.
Right. So here's my point.
It's okay to not know. That's the whole point of science.
No, but
the whole point of science is go where you don't know the answer.
That's why I believe in God, because there has to be a superior thing out there which can answer that question. The human brain cannot answer it because they can't.
Imagine the human brain can't answer it because it can't. No, we haven't. Not that we can't, but we haven't. We may never be able to, but we don't know that unless we continue to try. Piers reminds me of, imagine going back and the volcano erupted and they're telling you it's the god Woo Woo. The god Woo Woo made the whole volcano erupt. And it's like, really? Well, that was the best answer at that time. Then someone comes along with tectonic plates and the Earth's crust and describe how these plates shift, causing a breakthrough and the pressure to rise through the volcanic, up through the volcano, and here we have a volcano eruption, and it had nothing to do with the god Woo Woo. We know that because we discovered it through scientific means. While the tribe's still sacrificing their firstborn child to appease the god still sends a volcano. Doesn't care about your sacrifice. Nature took its course, period. Piers makes me think of like that God of the gaps is the answer for anything we don't know. You might as well.
Because nobody knows the answer. Therefore, there has to be, does there not, logically, a superior thing which can answer that question?
Please school this guy, Neil.
Question.
Yeah, so that's not an invocation of logic. That's an invocation of what philosophers have historically called the God of the gaps. The God of the gaps is, you look at where science has yet to tread, where science has yet to figure out, and you say, wow, that's mysterious. I don't know how that works. God must have done it. And by the way, for you to feel this way, there's a long, storied history of people thinking this way. Let's go back to AD 150. Claudius Ptolemy, brilliant Alexandrian mathematician, polymath. He wrote in the margin of one of his greatest works, he said, after looking at the planets going back and forth, not fully understanding why they did this, and he writes, when I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia. He was feeling it, okay? He's invoking.
Do you love that, Piers? We're talking about Zeus, bro. Jesus is not your dude. Not in this one. Zeus is the god. Like, you love it because you just like the fact that it lets some magic be real in the minds of these people. And don't get me wrong, he's probably feeling the awe of the universe. I feel it all the time. But, like, he's giving all to Zeus, not to Jesus, not to Yahweh.
Religion? It's a beautiful quote. It's one of my favorite quotes ever, by the way, because it's so honest and so mysterious and so curious. And what I'm saying here is he did not understand the planets, and he invokes deity to help him out. That's what you just did, but on a different frontier, because we know why the planets go back and forth. Newton got that figured out, and Kepler. So if to you, God is where science has yet to tread, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance.
Bro, somebody get a stretcher for Pierce. Someone get him a stretcher. Call 911. No, but seriously, how old is this interview? Because Pierce has been saying the same thing for a long time since I've been watching him. Is he still repeating the same thing? And again, what was just said by Neil is the more you give these things to God and then they get falsified and God becomes more and more irrelevant, you're minimizing your God from existence. The more we can find out that he's not there, he's not the one who did it, or it's not the one that did it. Come on.
I want to end with just a funny thing. That's a great answer, by the way. It's terrible, but it's a great answer.
It's terrible, but that's a great answer.
So in the chapter Truth and Beauty, I spent a fair amount of time evaluating what the meaning of truth is, especially as different people interpret it. And one branch of that would be a personal truth, let's say. And this is like, let's say, Jesus is your savior, right? In a free country where we have freedom of religious expression, no one is going to take that from you. That's a personal truth. But if you want to have other people agree with that truth, and they might have a different savior or a different religious tradition, then it will require some serious act of persuasion, but in the limit, as we've seen in the history of civilization, outright warfare and bloodshed and death. So in a pluralistic society, your personal truths really need to be kept to yourself or casually attempting to influence others.
The 10 burning questions about the universe, rapid fires. Here we go. What was there before the beginning of the universe? Everyone asks this question. What's the simple answer?
Oh, I'm delighted I can respond to you. We don't know. But we got top people working on it. Okay.
You know what?
There may have been a multiverse.
I like that. I like the honesty. So we genuinely don't know. People just don't know, right?
We don't know. There might have been a multiverse that's birthing universes, and we're one of them. But that just pushes the question one step further before that. What was around before the multiverse? So we just don't know. It's a frontier question right now.
Now, I know you're an avowed atheist. How can you be so certain that there is no supernatural, godlike entity out there, given that we know so little?
Well, first, I don't count myself among the ranks of avowed atheists. And I'll give a fast example why. A friend of mine went up to fix the Hubble telescope, okay, on the space shuttle. And on my Facebook feed, I said, Godspeed to the space shuttle astronauts. And then in the comment thread, it said, I thought you were an atheist. How could you possibly say that? And so the fact that I gleefully said that and atheists complained about it, clearly I'm not an atheist.
Okay, well, clearly any atheist saying that personally is just a fundamentalist mindset atheist. That's sad. So again, maybe not putting a label on oneself is the best move forward. It's just unfortunate that there's an allergic reaction to being able to use the term and identify as that. So it just sucks that we're in this pickle where many atheists give off a bad perception, therefore all under the category. It's like Christians. Christians have no problem identifying as Christian, but there are many Christians who identify as Christians that give Christianity a terrible rap. And so we really shouldn't allow labels to pigeonhole us and poison the well so much that if you say, no, I tend to identify in this thing because this is what I think, it has nothing to do with anything else. I just don't believe in God. I don't have to share other views with them. I don't have to behave like many of them do. I just have to be someone who doesn't believe that the God or gods exist.
My favorite Broadway musical of all time is Jesus Christ Superstar, which I saw in real time in New York City. I don't know that atheists can, so I don't.
Yes, they can, Neil. And brother, let me tell you, I love learning from you and all these other people. I am always into the mythologies and the art of the world and getting into Jesus and all that kind of stuff. And I do know what you're talking about. There's a lot of people. I'd love to have a conversation and learn from you, really, but also to kind of talk about things I've discovered along the way about ancient literature. But yeah, I get into this stuff too, but from a humanist, secular point of view, not, anyone who's so, dogmatic and not open to these things and not willing to learn, I think could use a dose of it, because you don't have to believe this stuff in order to enjoy this literature, to find interesting things about it.
Is there a God then, Neil deGrasse Tyson? I'll be about to have breaking news.
I don't know.
Is there a God?
Okay, so what I will tell you is that there are a lot of unknowns in the universe, but just because there are unknowns does not mean there's a deity in the unknown. If you're going to assign a deity to that which...
But it doesn't mean there isn't. It's like Piers knows his audience wants to hear this. Brother, look, Piers, I don't see how you aren't seeing that it doesn't mean there isn't a unicorn who made the universe. Name it. I mean, it could have been Allah. It could have been Zeus. It could have been eternal. Doesn't mean it wasn't eternal. Doesn't mean it was eternal. And just always has been as a brute fact. It's just silly to me. I don't know.
It doesn't mean there isn't. That's correct.
So you're more of an open mind about this, right?
Everyone should. If the unknown is the unknown, but the track record of people saying God is behind this, and then you add a little science to it, and you find out no, we can completely explain it and control it. Then the history of that exercise is so rich with science discovering the unknowns that were previously ascribed to deity, like lightning bolts and weather systems. There was Poseidon, there was Zeus, just look at the history of this. I'm not given reason to say we're going to find something, God is going to be at the center of that, and there'll be no science to apply. I'm going to look for the science first, because that's how the history of this exercise is unfolded.
I agree. I really enjoyed Neil's learning a lot of science from him over the years, and great communicator, really is. Piers Morgan, wow, this guy really doesn't like the science to try and explain everything, and then when we get to a place we don't have the answer to, he just needs there to be something more. Kind of reminds me of some people I know, family members, who just cannot let it go. Anyway, tell me what your thoughts are. I really appreciate the interviews coming from Nils. I want to do more reaction to him because he has so much to say. And make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check that bell so you're notified every time I drop one of these if you like these reactions. And until next time, see you then.